Welcome to 18-Minute Leaders, JI's new series on insights into parenting, education, and success with leaders of today and tomorrow. I'm Karina Rock, and we are so honored to have Rabbi Shlomo Katz here with us today. We're going to set the tone with a song. Let's welcome Rabbi Shlomo Katz singing Nigun of the Birds.
So Shalom, thank you so much for having me. And this is basically the way that I'm privileged to begin most of my classes, with a little bit of a Nigun, a song to set the tone, and to kind of make all that's unimportant stay unimportant and just focus on what's important, which is the privilege to talk to you right now.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful, and I feel like we've entered into another dimension. Rabbi Katz, you're a celebrated musician who's performed all over the world and is currently the spiritual leader of congregation Shirat David in Efrat, Israel. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be where you are today?
I was born in New Jersey, but I moved to Los Angeles at a very young age. I think I was 2.5. So I tell everyone I'm from Los Angeles because it sounds cooler. But I had the privilege of spending time in LA till I was about 9 years old. Then we moved to Israel, the whole family, and I grew up in Ra'anana, the city of Ra'anana. At the age of 16, there was a lot of back and forth. At the age of 16, we moved back to Los Angeles. And it was around those years that I couldn't ignore my heart. Something was bubbling up inside. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And of course, I knew that the worst thing I could do is to ignore what was happening. So that led me to a journey of meeting a lot of different types of people in the spiritual worlds, and specifically, obviously, in the rabbinic world. But it brought me to a sense of like being driven at a young age to become a leader, to become a rabbi. And I started composing music as an expression of my neshama, of my soul. And at the age of 22, I felt strongly that I must go back to the land of Israel, to Eretz Israel, and learn to become a rabbi, officially become ordained. I thought I was just going to go for about 2 or 3 years of learning and then return to Los Angeles to lead a community there. But God had other plans. And it was around that time that some of my Nigunim, some of my songs became very well known throughout Israel and throughout Jewish communities in diaspora. And for the past 20 years, basically, I've been privileged to tour and travel and sing and learn and celebrate and struggle and just hopefully be real with all the people that I'm blessed to know. And the greatest gift of all is that I'm speaking to you from our home here in Efrat with my wife and 5 children, 4 daughters and a son, right down the street from where the synagogue, which And the leader of our community is about to be finished in its building process. So that's 41 years in a nutshell.
Wow, Mazal Tov. It's nice. It's so amazing to see that all of your work is coming to a culmination and building and kind of like coming into reality with this building and the community. And you mentioned like it's amazing to hear your story. And this question I have prepared for you is about authenticity and the pursuit of authenticity. And it's so clear when you were telling us about how, something was stirring inside of you and you had to follow your heart, that that's part of who you are. And do you feel that people today have this same pursuit, a pursuit for authenticity?
Yeah, I think that on the outside, it doesn't look like it, but that's just on the outside. I think when you sit with people and you show them that you're actually interested in getting to know them, you enable them to express that part of themselves that truly is authentic to whatever's going on inside. The problem is that how often do we actually really sit down with people and provide that safety space and go there? But when that happens, I do feel that that's exactly the calling of this generation. And I pray that that becomes more and more the norm. And I think it is. I pray it
Mhm.
is.
And to go even deeper, how does this connection to authenticity on an individual level, what does that look like on a communal level?
Hmm. That's a great question. In community, it's so important to maintain your individuality, but at the same breath, to also remember that you're part of a larger entity. The rhythm that there's tension between those two movements, but they don't have to contradict themselves at all. I think that when we love ourselves and we realize that we love people for real, we love them enough to not live in a state of caring what they think about me all the time based on what I do or what I don't do. There's kind of this security, there's kind of this safety belt, this safety jacket where we're able to honor each other where we're at, but not by conforming and only saying what we think people want to hear. It's almost like people want to hear the opposite so that they can struggle, they can tackle it, they can grow with it. So I feel that one of the most vital elements of growth in any form of community, specifically in building a Jewish community, is like the title of a great book that I love called The Quest for Authenticity, to pursue that because it's contagious. I know for myself, when I see some of my friends that are just not ignoring something that's burning up inside of them, it pushes me. It pushes me as well. So it's really a domino effect, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be contagious with.
Of it. When we spoke earlier, you mentioned to me the story about Rabbi Nachman and how love of others enables us to believe in our own thoughts, and also the difference between um, kind of this flying higher of physicality versus spirituality. Can you explain to us about Rabbi Nachman's story and kind of this metaphor, this explanation?
I'll try to explain it as follows. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
In the early 80s in Santa Monica,
Hmm.
close to my hometown, there was a gathering that involved Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, and Rabbi Shlomo Katz. Pretty cool gathering. I was only 5 at the time, but I assume that today I would have done anything to have been there. Someone asked Rabbi Karlebach, Rabbi Shlomo Karlebach, they asked him, "What's your greatest dream?" And he said, "My greatest dream is to greet and say shalom, say hello to every human being in the world." And Dylan, without missing a beat, said, "Rabbi, that's my greatest nightmare." And I think that says it. That says it all. And I love Bob, but he's not exactly he's not exactly an example for this teaching that I'm trying to hopefully convey. It was Rabbi Karbach that said that you're getting closer to God when you feel closer to people. And people have this concept of closeness to God means I'm separated from everyone and no one's going to bother me. And he would say that physically, the higher you fly, the higher you ascend, like when you're taking off on a plane, physically, the higher you ascend, the further you get from each person that's left down on Earth. But spiritually, it's exactly the opposite. Spiritually, the higher you fly, the closer you feel to every person. And that's been a motto for me. And it's not easy at all. It sounds very easy. It's actually not. It's a very, very easy thing because it means that you're absolutely forbidden to give up on people, no matter what. So having that, that helps, I believe, when that becomes a truth that you hold on to, it sets the parameter, it sets the bar for a very sincere level of genuine authenticity and living with consciousness and awareness. How close am I getting to other people?
Thank you so much. And I believe that Rabbi Shlomo Katz has a song that talks about this, right?
That's right. He has a gorgeous song. Let's sing that song. This song was written while he was marrying off a couple in Golden Gate Park in the mid-'60s. A melody came to him and he turned to the groom. He said, "Brother, I need some good words." And this was like a 5-hour chuppah. And the groom said, "Lord, get me high. Get me high. Lord, get me high. Get me high. Get me high. Lord, get me high. Get me higher. Lord, get me high. Get me high. Get me high. Lord, get me high. Get me higher. Higher and higher and higher and higher. Higher and higher and higher. Higher and higher, higher and higher. Higher and higher and higher. Lord, get me high, get me high, get me high. Lord, get me high, get me higher. Lord, get me high, get me high, get me high. Lord, get me high, get me higher. Higher and higher, higher and higher. Higher and higher and higher. Higher and higher and higher and higher. Higher and higher and higher. Oh, higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher and higher.
Beautiful.
A real high, a real godly high is not one that you have to worry about a crash. Because while you're getting high on the master of the world, on being close to people, you have more vessels to be in the place that you've just related to. So that's the real type of high we're talking about.
Yeah. And I can see how, setting the tone with music and having an experiential type of learning like you do in your community with your chabura, that creates like this closeness that we're talking about that gives room for authenticity. And I wanted to know if you could tell us just a little bit about the chabura so that we can understand the type of learning that you're engaging in with your community and people who want to learn from you.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. You coined it perfectly. We call our study groups chaburot, chabura. Chabura obviously comes from two words. It comes from the word chaver, that it's friendships, it's friends getting together and learning. But in Hebrew, the word chibur means connection. Chabura and chevra, that's what chevra means, people not just being friends to each other, but connecting with each other. And there's no better way to connect with people than when they're vulnerable enough to be, and brave enough to be raw and to tell it what it is. When we learn, I always tell my chevra, the worst answer you could ever give me to any question I ask is the answer you think that I want to hear. If that's already part of your thought process, it's already the wrong answer. Mm-hmm. And once that's drilled in, I don't have to worry about that. No one has to worry about that. But one of the things that we do, which I find to be very, very powerful, and it's really based in the school of thought of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, is that if I'm not going to pray over what I learned, then what I'm learning just stays in this place called knowledge. It could be holy knowledge, but it's knowledge. It's just here in my head. But if I pray over what I learn, then I take the knowledge and I bring it down into here, into my heart. And I bring that holy information and I plug it into a place that's not only about knowledge. You feel alive. You feel alive about that. And that's called the tree of life. That's the battle between the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, which we're still here trying to figure out how to correct the primordial sin. So one of the things we do is that we don't move on subjects or books that we finish until each person has written their own prayer based on, each person here is becoming what we call in Hebrew, I guess in Yiddish, a shtickle David Malka Mashiach, a little bit of King David. King David composed the Tehillim, the Psalms. Each person here has to become a little bit of a poet to express through their own prayer, through their own words, what the experience of learning caused and is causing them in the present moment to feel. And when we go there to that place, it's the most beautiful place in the world. We print out these booklets, and hopefully we'll get the whole world to not just learn with us, but to be composers of prayers with us, because I find that to be an essential attack on the tree of knowledge. I think that's really important.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I love it that, you're right away learning and sharing. And as we know, as educators, the most important thing you can do is share what you know, so that you're not like just selfishly taking in information, but you're taking it in and sharing it. And that's beautiful to see that you're doing that as a community. And I know when I was teaching, when I was a new teacher, I thought to myself, this is so hard. I wanted to come into the classroom and I wanted to kind of like light these kids up with this desire for learning, and I was going to make it fun and interesting. And then I was faced with the reality of teaching and having to kind of like cram all this information to these kids' minds. And there's like this, as teachers, we feel this like push and pull. And also as parents, right? We feel like, well, we need to educate our kids. We need to show them how to be who they need to be. But we also have to kind of do that with love, or else what's all that information going to, what it's going to do inside of them if they're not going to channel it in the appropriate way. And I love the dichotomy that you've presented here of the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. Can you explain to us a little bit more about that and what that means to you?
Yeah, I think we have a really easy example. Can you see the back of my phone?
Hold it closer. Hold it closer.
Let's see. I mean, it's on any iPhone.
Oh, there you go.
See that? You see that, sure. Right? What is that over there? What is that thingy?
An apple.
Not just an apple. There's a bite out of the apple, right?
Yeah.
We all know that if we don't know how to use this thing, it's destroying the world, because it's ripping people apart from their own use of sensory, of getting to know what they're all about, being in touch with their emotions, thinking that they're involved with people in the world when really it's just screens and everything. This is the tree. This is the tree of knowledge. We're walking around with pocket. These are not phones. Who actually uses this as a phone? Maybe 5% of the usage of this thing is a phone. It's a pocket computer. It's a tree of knowledge. And this is the final battle. Like, once we realize that we can't go on for too much longer, having our lives completely wound up with these things, we'll be able to breathe again. But we'll be able to remember why we were sent here. And it's just beyond me when I realize that there's a sign of an apple with a bite taken out of it on the back of each of these pocket computers. It's an unbelievable thing, but it's also so right. It's so true, because this is the avoda. This is the work. This is the work towards the end of time, which we all know we're right around the corner. We're right around the corner to this whole revelation of an end of concealment, of wondering, is everything okay? What's going to be? We're right around the corner there. But when we have conversations like this, I feel like we're much, much closer. And I think that, I mean, this has been such a meaningful session, because you're aiming with each question to get to the core of where leaders are trying, what leaders are trying so hard to convey and to be plugged into. And I just want to give you a blessing to keep on following the beat of your own, your own drum, and the pulse of your sense of what you can't ignore. Because the more you do that, the more you get away from the tree of knowledge controlling us. And this has been a real privilege for me to be able to even articulate for myself what it is that I feel I'm trying to do in this world. And I just want to tell everyone that our congregation's name is Shirat David. I live here in Efrat. We're a group of about, 100, 110 families who can't get enough. We can't get enough of each other, of the privilege of living here in the Holy Land, of growing, of connecting. And whenever you have the opportunity to come and visit us or be in touch, just know there's someone here that's waiting for you.
Thank you so much for that. I wanted to just kind of get deeper a little bit into the idea of tree of knowledge, or tree of life, because you mentioned to me that with and I love this, the way of visualizing this is that the tree of knowledge, you can be satisfied from that. So when we're in the pursuit of knowledge, when we finish learning a certain thing, we're done. Right. And then with the tree of life, it's kind of like, can it end? And I think this has to do with this tweet takeaway that I'm going to ask you about, right? So if you had one tweet takeaway that you could just sum up everything that we've talked about in these 18 minutes, what would it be?
I would have to say that every single bite from the tree of life creates more hunger to become more real.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I'd love to end with Nigun Nevo.
Beautiful.
Yeah? Yeah. And I just want to mention to all of our audience before we end that we're going to be posting 2 JI Top games that have to do with songs and with Israel that you can look at and play. And also that there are a lot more 18-minute leaders that you can watch with amazing leaders around the world. And we hope that you continue following us and watching us. Thank you, Rabbi Shlomo Katz. And
thank you. Thank you so much. This is one of my first songs. It's one of the first Nigunim I ever wrote. And I came down on Friday night at the Shabbos table. Thank God I remembered it. I had to sing it all Shabbos, the whole Sabbath, to make sure I didn't forget it so I could record it after Shabbos. Elaina, Elaina,